Let me tell you something now, this is ball hour, and we can ball all hour. Drag the ball backwards, captaining, left them all fractured, home advantage. When we score the goals, we don't do the dancing. All action, tell them again, enjoy the show, this is all facts here. We've been grafting all year long, you ain't getting right here. I've been grafting all season, I want player of the year. Yeah, pro contract with a FIFA card. And a man them there like he is.
Welcome back, guys. Got another episode for you guys. A very interesting one, considering this is actually my gaffer. So yeah, make sure you go, do what you do, which is like, comment, subscribe, and go watch all the other videos before you watch this one. Today we've got, as you know, he's off. What was it? Work experience. He's off work experience. He's been
accepted on the job.
Yeah, he's officially now a co-host. So this is Courtney Austin, guys. Introduce yourself. Tell them a little bit about you, because they never got to, know a little bit about you in the first one. So
a little bit about me, playing history. I don't know. I think I proudly own this title of being a non-league sket.
Just moving around.
Can't be happy.
Yeah, okay, that's
Can't
done. Anyways, that's done. Another show for another day. So, introducing my gaffer, James Duncan. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
I'm fine, thanks. As you know, with injury, ups and downs. But yeah, how's the season going so far? We are flying at the moment. How is that going?
Yeah, it's going well. The current league position has been solid. Obviously, we've picked up a decent point return from the opening games. Cup competitions have been a little bit disappointing going out the FA Cup and Trophy after a couple of games, but this season has got off to a solid start. Injuries has been a bit of a problem, so we've had to move the squad around a little bit and try and recruit. But yeah, we're happy with how we've gone.
Credit to the team, though. In terms of you guys in recruiting, you've done that so well. In terms of when a person's been injured, there's always been a replacement. Like, how did that go about? Did you kind of think of that, like, last season we had a problem, need to prepare for this season, or how does that come about?
Yeah, it's difficult because you can never plan for the injuries, but I think as a manager, you've always got a network. I think you've always got to have a book of players. I don't think you can think, right, I've recruited, I've signed my 16. This is the 16 I'm going to have for the season. I think you've always got to be prepared for injuries. And, we've had a fair few this year. And when they've come along, we've had to kind of get out there and network and recruit and speak to other kind of managers and players and stuff. And the ones that have gone out for injury, we've managed to get a few in.
So how are the recovering players doing in terms of, I know one of them, Jake Peck and Roddy, two special players for you. How are they recovering so far?
Yeah, that is probably the worst part of how non-league operates, if you like, because they picked up serious injuries. Roddy's was an ACL through nothing, jumping for a header, and Pecky was it was a double leg break. But again, the lad was going for a shot. It was just really unlucky. And they're serious injuries, they're lengthy injuries. They're out for the whole season, but just with them with work as well, trying to look after them because of work is football kind of moves aside a little bit because you want to try and look after them, and they're going to be out for the season. We're not going to see them again this year. Hopefully we will see them again in pre-season. They're both, Rod's had his operation now and Jake's had his op. So now they're going through the recovery process, but because the injuries are so serious, they're going to be, a long time out.
So do you feel like, because I know that only players that are contracted, if they're injured, they will get paid through the injury. So do you feel like clubs or football in general should do more for people in non-league that, if they're not signed on contract, there's some sort of cover just in case, like when things like this happen, because they're missing out on football money and then they're missing out on work money especially. So
yeah, I think it's a really interesting point. I think our chairman's gone to the Southern League and asked them, can we put some kind of fund in place for situations like this? The contract situation is really difficult. We've got one player on contract. We've got Bradley Clayton on contract. Bradley Clayton's currently injured. Bradley's getting paid because obviously that's part of his contract. We can't put 16 players on contract because we haven't got the budget to do that. We're given X amount of money. If you have a contracted player and they're unavailable or they can't play, obviously you're still paying that player. So then technically then you might be paying 17, 18 players, and it doesn't, the mould of kind of that budget, it's hard to do. I do agree with you though. I just think when someone has a serious injury like that, like Rod's an electrician, self-employed, Jake is a driver. So obviously they both need that income.
Yeah.
So we've done we're trying to do as much as we can as a club. Obviously, we set up different fundraisers. We've done the GoFundMe page. We've raised money for the supporters. Other clubs have helped out and chipped in as well. So we're doing as much as we can to try and give them obviously the funds to do that. We have got the club is covered by insurance as well, so we've got insurance claims that we're putting in as well for the boys, and we're just trying to get them as much money as we can.
That's actually amazing. I didn't know. But I missed a bit out. Introduce yourself in terms of where you started playing football and how long you've been playing football for, and then how you got into management.
Yeah, so I started with obviously going through playing the Sunday leagues, and then I joined the Willstone, like an education program, if you like. You know, the
college scheme, yeah.
college schemes that go on now, and that, when I look back, is probably the best football education I've ever had. I was very fortunate. I played with some very, very good players at the time, and my coach was just outstanding. So my coach at the time was a coach called Francis Joseph. So Zach plays for Chesham now.
Oh, okay.
His dad, his father, was my coach, and I've got to say he was part of the crazy gang at Wimbledon. So like his coaching and the way he managed, I loved it personally because it was all about playing for him and doing the right things. And the education we got there was just the best thing we had. I mean, I remember walking up to the trials. I come from Colindale. Walked up. A lot of my friends were from Grand Park, so we walked up to Grand Park and then we had half a Stonebridge walk up, and then we had half a Watford walk up, and literally that was our team. It was like Grand Park, Stonebridge, Watford, all in together. But the side and the squad was absolutely brilliant. And then that kind of led on to Willstone, and then there was quite a few of us that got into the Willstone first team at the time, which was good. You know, Gordon Bartlett, who's the manager there, he's had 22 years there. He got us into the first team, and he put trust in a lot. You know, there's 4 or 5 of us that went on and played, and then through there, then the non-league career carried on. Bit of a journeyman, if I'm honest. At the start, I took football quite serious, and then I did probably the thing what I would advise young players not to do now. I played at Willstone, played in the playoff final. We got promoted. Everything was going so well. Obviously, as you get promoted, you recruit better players. So Willstone recruit better players, and I found myself on the fringes of the squad, and I weren't playing as much the opening parts. But the players in front of me were actually really good. As not impatient young kid, bit spoiled, I've gone, right, I'm off. And really, like, when I look back now, I think I would advise a young player at Chesham, if they weren't getting in, look, stick it out. It will happen. Things happen. It changes for you. And then I ended up going to like a few clubs, and then that didn't really work out for me. And then I just went and played with my mates. I dropped down levels and I played with my mates, and then I went on and played for several different non-league clubs.
So you tell young players to wait, but at what point should they go? Because they always say football's such a short career and it goes by like that. So, I mean, 19 I could understand, but he's now 20. He needs to... 21's round the corner. So in terms of getting experience, because I remember when I tried to start out in my career and I said, well, I was at this team and this team, they were like, well, you don't have experience. I was like, but I've been at academies here, and they were like, no, we're talking non-league experience. And that's when I took the step back and went, oh, so if they're not getting the experience that they need, at what point do they move on? Is it by Christmas, or is it by the next year round when they've been in and around it?
It's such a tough question because it works on game time. I get, because that game time is going to give you the platform to get higher, and I totally understand it. A good story is my job. I was teaching and managing a college program, and we had a young lad called Ashley Nathaniel George. Ashley Nathaniel George was such a talent. He come through, and I had to try and teach him the non-league way to try then to get. He's actually in the pro game now, but he was getting a little bit impatient. He wanted to play more. He wasn't playing as much, and he could have easily gone and then done the rounds and then probably just fell away. But he kind of stuck at it. He had to sit on the bench a little bit. He had to go in and out the side, and then he got consistently in the side. And then he went on, and then he stepped up to step 3, went and played for Hendon. After he played for Hendon, he went and signed for Crawley. So there's a like success story of being a little bit patient with one particular club. I do see your point though, how many games you give it where you're not actually playing or doing it. But what I would say is it's easy to jump ship. Is it the right ship you're jumping into? You just got to be a little bit careful of what ship you're going into, because sometimes the ship's not always right. But so just be careful.
In terms of that, so I understand the patience, but do you think that managers play a part in terms of the communication? Because I feel a lot of managers will say to young players, you're not experienced enough, or you're too young, you're not ready. But sometimes that's not actually the case, because when they're given little opportunities, whether it's a 10 minutes or 15 minutes, they actually do well and they hold themselves. So how long are these young players to be patient when sometimes some managers aren't necessarily honest?
Yeah, the honesty and the communication is really, really important because uh, when you're young as well, you're at limbo. You don't really know where you are. So I think you need to kind of be honest and tell them where they're at. Like, for example, we would have a couple of young lads where I would say to them, look, I'll be totally honest with you. I don't think you're at where we want to be now. I can see you in a year's time. You may need to go step 5. Going there, picking up 30 games is really going to help you develop. Then you can then go and step back in to then go and play. The games or the timings is really, really difficult because your opportunity might come along and then you do take the opportunity and all of a sudden you go and get 30 games at that level and then you've got 30 games at step 3 or you've got 30 games at step 5. It's hard. It's kind of fate. What I would say though is if you jump so young and you jump into different clubs, by the time you're 19, you've got 5-6 clubs in your CV. If I'm looking at that CV, I'm a bit like, oh, why have you got 5-6 clubs? Like, where's it gone wrong for you? I know it's not always you. Sometimes it is the manager. Like, I totally understand it, or it's not the right club. I do get that. But at some point, you've got to show a bit of patience towards the manager. Agreed, the manager needs to be honest and they need to communicate well with you as well. It's a bit of both, really, I'd say.
Are you looking at me, bro?
I'm just making like no follow up.
Huh?
No.
You answered it. Yeah, shut.
Now, do you know? I agree with Courtney and I agree with you because I feel like communication is such an important thing. But so then, with that being said, to sort of manage those things, because you're obviously there's the managers and then there's the players. So would you then not kind of assign one of the older heads like a mentor to that young player? Because I feel like that's what the game kind of lacks nowadays. Is that the relationship between a player and a manager can be so like,
Yeah.
I don't know what the word is I'm looking for, but it could be hard.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but if they have that relationship with an older player that can sort of guide them, that would be so much better. So in terms of that, do you yourself kind of give like the older players like, look, watch out for this young one. He's coming in now. Make sure you keep him in and around it. So
Yeah, I don't think personally I've ever said he's assigned as your individual mentor,
Yeah.
but you'd like to think the older players in the squad
Naturally
would take on naturally that.
yeah.
I mean, how many leaders do you have in the squad? Now, leader's a big word to say. Some people just said, oh, he's a leader. Is he really a leader? Now, we lost a really big leader in Rod when he went out.
Yeah.
And Rod was was a massive leader for our side. We've still got leaders in the side. We would like to think the 2 or 3 leaders, the older experienced head, will take on. We played a game on Saturday. We started a younger lad. He didn't have the best halves. That happens. You won't find me going in there and absolutely grilling him to say that he hasn't meant to do that. He just didn't have a good half. It happens. As he's walking off the pitch, we've got 2 older players, not grilling him, saying to him, look, you ain't had the best half. It happens. Listen, make sure second half you improve. This is part of the game. And that is part of the game, and that is the bit where I like to say the younger players, can they deal with that stuff?
Yeah.
So can they deal with being a sub? Can they deal with coming on? Can they deal with bad performances and then reacting and going back? Like the lads who had an indifferent performance on Saturday sent me a message straight after the game saying, look, I'm really sorry about my performance. But straight away, like the response is, it happens.
Yeah.
We have senior players that don't always play well, but it's just recognizing that does happen.
So going on to the experience heads, how much of a factor is having an experience head in your team? So when you pick your team selections, when you think, okay, we need experience in there, how much does that play a factor in terms of picking your team?
Mixed. I think it does play a part in some games. I think it really does. There's no way I'd think, you've got to pick 11 experienced players. It doesn't. And with our side, you haven't got that. We have got a real kind of mix and blend. We have got some older experienced heads. They do play their part. I've got to say, when it does get sometimes part in the games, when it gets a bit rough and you need a bit of know-how and maybe your back's against the wall for the last 20 minutes, those are the players that really then step up and dig in. But we have got some younger lads as well. And, the younger lads are stepping up and they are playing well as well. So we have, for me, I think if you get the right mix, I think you're on the right road.
So with that being said, credit to the team and yourself. We had a bit of a slow start and then all of a sudden we just skyrocketed. What do you think that comes down to? Is that having a great mix or like just sticking together as a team, or what did you do in terms of like helping the team kind of stick together and just bring out performances week in, week out?
Yeah. runs are always in your season up and down. Even if you finish near the top, they're going to be up and down. You're going to go for, we're third, Western and Truro second or first. At some point, Western and Truro are going to go through a bad spell. I think that just happens. It's kind of just giving everyone the belief that you are good players and we are a good side. And at some point, if you keep working hard, it does turn for you. There's no question. How long that sticky period goes on for is really, you can't really say how long it's going to go on for. It's just making sure the players identify we are a good side, they stick to their jobs, and we have got good individuals. The start, say slow, it was more, we did pick up a couple of wins as well. So we were kind of top half-ish. So it wasn't too alarming. I wasn't sitting there thinking, we could be in a bit of trouble here. Like we have to go and recruit 5 players and get 5 out. It wasn't that. It was just maybe a few tweaks, and it was giving the boys belief to say, look, I've got full confidence we're going to go and win more than we're going to lose.
So going back to when you said you were, I believe you said you did, you were a college. I mean, no, you were a manager at like the college scheme.
Yeah.
So what's the difference between managing a college scheme and then managing like in non-league? Like, what are the differences you found, and how have you adapted?
Well, the first thing is when you manage at a college scheme is when you manage under 18s, you've got to put your safeguarding kind of hat on, because there is a difference. They do go down as young adults. They do go down as kind of minors, if you like. So where different terminologies that you use, for example, I'm not really a screamer or shouter. I'm not really going to go give F's this, F's that. It's just not what I do. But certain terminology that you use or the way you dress on a Saturday afternoon has to be different to how you dress an under 18s. Now, under 18s, some of the guys, they lack the confidence levels as well. They're not quite there with their confidence. If you go in there, I think you've got to kind of different coaching styles. Command style, guided discovery. Guided discovery, you're kind of talking through people. Command style is do this now. Yeah. Where I think you've got to have a real mixed blend when you go into under 18s, because some of them have not developed, and you really need to give them that.
And in terms of management so far, what are some of like the difficulties you've kind of like experienced along the ways?
In managing now?
Managing non-league.
Managing non-league is a lot more difficult than what people think and what I expected. So managing career is, I've got to late 20s, near 30. I was at Northwood at the time, and I was taking a few sessions to help the manager out. As I'd done my coaching badges as well, so it's always something I knew I wanted to get into. As I started doing it, I quite liked it. I was like, okay, this is good. I can see myself going in this direction. My friend was manager at Potter's Bar. He said, look, can you come to Potter's Bar, be my assistant? I was like, great, love it. I'll go there. I feel like I'd done my apprenticeship because I didn't earn any money. I went there for a couple of years. I had to graft. It was costing me money to go and do stuff. Yeah. I was trying to recruit players, and I was learning on the job. Now, when I say that, is that it's just not about putting a team out there for 11, dealing with chairmans, dealing with boards, dealing with budgets, telephone conversations. Now you're dealing with players, recruitment. Now you deal with agents. There's so much more behind the scenes than what people think there is to it. Now, and then when I went to Potter's Bar, and then the guy that was there, he said, look, I want to go a bit higher, as in director of football, if you like. He had kind of had his management career. I'm still a very, very close friend to mine now. And he said, look, you take it on. And then obviously took on the Potter's Bar job. And then that's when I started to then obviously recruit the side and get the side in. But that was a massive learning curve for me, because I was, as a young manager, I was full of frustration. I was like, Potter's Bar, like, why is the pitch like this? I was like, why have we got no coaches? Yeah. Why is the budget? Why are we paying people 20, 30? Like, what we doing? Yeah. And when he would then relax me and say, look, that's not the way. This is the way you got to do it. This is the way you got to manage it. Except the pitch ain't that great, but what are we going to do about it? You might have to recruit a different type of player. And as a young manager, if he wasn't there, I might have gone down there like banging on the door saying this, that, and they would have been like, hold on, who's this young guy like running around trying to say? So you learn those kind of things. Yeah. So you learn tricks. And now obviously as I moved, which was a controversial move from going like from Potter's Bar to Chesham at the time, a lot of people were like, what are you doing? But that learning curve at Potter's Bar was there for I think 3 years. I counted it as my apprenticeship into management.
So do you feel like managers are not like given the credit that they're due in a sense? Because as players, and I feel like a lot of us from the outside looking in, we just look at it at surface level. we just look at it as like, oh, why are you not playing me? Some fans are thinking, why is he not playing, or why are the results not coming away?
Yeah.
So, from that perspective, would you say you're not giving enough credit, or
I think people do start to realise how difficult the job is. The hardest part about being a manager is either leaving people out of squad or making 5 people sub. That is the hardest part I find about manager. It's for me. It's not training sessions. I don't find like as in like tactically or anything like that. I don't. It's that part there because you are telling 5 people on a Saturday afternoon you cannot play football, and you're going to play football 15, 20 minutes. You know, it's a very, very difficult step. It's something that you have to do, but you're denying that person that opportunity. But that's where the tough decisions come in because there are probably people sitting on the sides or not in the squads where they probably could have deserved to play, but you actually picked that side. All I would say to players is that, well, me as a manager or like when I work with Mars and stuff like that, we always pick a side to try and win the game. There's nothing where you're saying there's no individual kind of like, right, well, you're not playing because you've done that last week. It's like you pick a side to win the game. But that, for me, is a difficult situation when you leave people out.
go on?
How do you pick your sides?
My guy, I knew you were gonna...
Definitely game by game.
Game by game.
Game by game. We always pick our game by game. We do our research. We do put a lot of work behind the scenes. Probably one thing I didn't mention about working hard is like the analysis we do now. I think non-league's moved on like so much.
Far,
Like VO is just like taking, I think, football like up.
Another level.
Whoever invented VO, financially, they're doing well, and like what a great invention for like non-league to have that platform. So that kind of like the people got like the trackers and stuff like that. So like it's that kind of analysis, that kind of thing. So we do our due diligence. We do look around, and we do it game by game. And this is sounding a little bit crazy, but sometimes we leave players on the side to think, listen, get him on after 60. He is going to cause problems against them. And that is hard to justify to a player. It's like, what, I'm going to play 30 instead of I'm going to play 60. But it's worked for us sometimes this year where we've got them onto our pitch. We've got a big pitch. And after 60, we've rolled the dice with 2 subs and it's paid off, you know. So we always do it game by game. We're probably managers that make more changes than other managers because we try to manage people's bodies. And I think this year, because we've been quite injury hit, we've been a little bit thinking, oh, hold on, he's played 4 or 5 in a row. He's had previous injuries. We might need to get him out for a game to then put him back in. So we're definitely game by game. Definitely.
You know, now that the injuries is just a crazy thing, but the results are still coming. So when are they expected? Like, how soon can you expect like majority of the players that are injured to come back?
Not Brad Clayton, a good couple of weeks. Shaq the same. So obviously we just signed a lad, Lucas Sinclair. Played 1 game, played really well, scored the winner.
Oh yeah.
Injured hamstring. Probably a couple of weeks. So those kind of players probably looking at like 2 to 3 weeks. So probably sitting out for another 2 to 3 games. But it's quite difficult because then obviously you've got to replace those players. And then how long do you replace them for? Because you're getting these players in for 2 to 3 weeks, and then they return. Then you still got to start to manage expectations. So we are looking at a couple of loans as well. I think we've got a lad on loan from Luton and a lad on loan from Wickham as well, which we're trying to get in because obviously that's 1 month. So then we're looking at a 4 or 5 game period for those lads.
How do you manage bringing players in, having players, and the budget as well?
Difficult because we've given a set budget that we have to kind of get to, or not go over to, sorry, every week. And then it depends who you're recruiting. So the telephone conversations you have with players are really dependent on their CVs a little bit, if I'm totally honest. You could have a lad come in and they've played Conference South 300 games. You know what money they're kind of talking because they've played that level. They're not going to come in and, you know, you're not talking about 50 quid players here. You're talking obviously more money but they've played off that money. So, you know, that's difficult. If you've got a lad that's moving up through the ranks, step 4, step 5, if you like, unless they've been at a really big hitter, which, you know, are throwing around big money, then you kind of get the rough idea of what money they might be looking at. It's chalk and cheese, really. When I was at Potter's Bar, really, when I look back, the budget we got promoted off is just, it is one of my biggest achievements, definitely. And I think I look back after my end of my managerial career and be like, still then, that was a huge, huge achievement to do that because everyone was on very similar money, like travel expenses really, maybe a little bit more. And then obviously we got through with promotion with that. So talking to players, trying to recruit players. But when you talk to players, you're not just selling, because if someone's coming in just for money, it puts you off a little bit as a manager as well. You've got to think what they're buying into. Do they want to get promoted? Do they want to play for the club and stuff? So we do little things like we actually train at Rayners Lane. So we've done that so we can recruit players from everywhere. So we've got a few London boys that play for us because they can commute in. Then we've got some Hertfordshire boys that can come down and stuff like that. So we try to put training in a central location, because some people might think, hold on, Chesham, if we go and train in Wickham, for example, then obviously that's your catchment area is that way. Yeah. So that's why we shipped it inside. So when you have a conversation with a player, you can sell a bit more about the training, about what you do, where the club wants to be. I've got to be honest, the higher up you are in the league, it's a bit more of a selling point as well, because you're kind of pushing advertising that you want to go up and stuff like that, compared to obviously if you're a little bit lower, it's probably a little bit more difficult. And then some people got big budgets. Obviously, they might blow you out of the water, but that's just what happens.
I think that's an interesting point you made. So let's say we take out the injuries and you're still kind of high up. Would you still then be looking for players looking to add to the squad?
It depends if they can improve the squad, if you like. If a player comes along, sometimes it's not always your recruitment. Sometimes a player comes knocking on your door and says, my mate at St Albans, or for example, not happy, he wants to move. If he's a better player than what you got, if he's not going to disrupt it too much, for example, if you've got a regular and he's really good in the dressing room and a really good egg, then obviously you've got to weigh that up. But if someone is a better player and may improve the side, it is difficult to turn down if it fits in with what you're doing, So it's a hard one. I think you've got to judge it player by player.
But what if he's a better player but not a better man than the guy that you've got in your team?
That's very difficult. Very difficult, because your dressing room is really, really important. Really important. You've got to get the balance right. You've got one of the reasons why we were promoted with Potter's Bar is the dressing room was just outstanding. It was outstanding. It was full of people that wanted to be promoted, that wouldn't let any standards drop. Every game we would double on it, and if someone needs to be dug out, they were dug out in the right way, in the right way. And it was just that balance is really, really important. So if someone is a real key figure in the dressing room, I've got to be honest, that would be hard for us to remove.
But you wouldn't mind removing him though?
It depends, man. Depends what player you were talking about coming in.
He's a winner at all costs. Going back to the money conversation, I know respectfully, football is not people's day jobs. For some it is, but for most that play on a Tuesday at our level, it's not. So when players are basically giving up their free time, some of them are also giving up time with family, daughters and all of that, making all those sacrifices. When they're asking for the money they're asking for, do you then kind of reason with them on that level, or is it just a no straight? You've got your day jobs for that.
I totally agree. No, I totally agree with you. I think as much as I'm here preaching about how hard management is and the time it takes up, I totally understand the time it takes up for players. Last week we went to Western on a Tuesday. We got in at 2 a.m. We've done Thursday, Rayners Lane. Saturday, then we had another away game.
Them journeys. First game of the season.
We done Plymouth.
First game of the season. 8:30, Paddington Station.
Yeah.
Bro, we trekked all the way to Plymouth. 3 hours on a train. Had to get a cab, then to the ground, to then play a match. Forget it,
and then cab home, yeah. So,
and the thing is, them lot had them GPSs, so they were running on a hot day to make matters. Nah.
But that's what I'm saying. I do see your point, because players are giving up a lot of time as well. And I do, when you talk to a player, and obviously a player's trying to get their best deal as well, because they need financially, sometimes you've got to take that part of your income and your job and stuff like that. And I totally understand it. I don't send it. If it doesn't fit into our budget, I have to say, look, that doesn't fit into our budget. There's nothing I can do with that. I get players trying to maximise what they can get. But at the end of the day, if it doesn't fit in, I can only go max of our budget, what can fit into our budget. So,
any questions?
That's it.
Sure,
mate.
Because we're gonna close it soon.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So as we're coming to a close, got a couple of questions for you. We like to do this with managers. We like to see how great their knowledge is. So no pressure. Like we say, we're gonna start off easy, then pick it up. So starting off easy, what are your top 3 managers of all time?
Top 3 managers: Wenger, Arsenal fan. I like to think where a manager takes over, when he leaves, what places he left the club in or what he did when he
give him
took
that.
over.
I'll give him that.
I'm gonna go Wenger. Yeah.
We've got 2 more.
My childhood was Arsenal v United, so I have to go Ferguson. Because that is like when I football like late 90s, early 2000s. That was just my child was Arsenal v United. That was the derby. That was and again with what Ferguson done.
Yeah.
And last one, I'll probably go old school. I'm going to leave the new ones out, but I'll probably go Clough. Brian Clough.
Relax.
No, he is.
No.
He is.
No.
No, he is.
Relax, Ryan.
Do you know what he did?
Come on. I don't know what he did, but I heard of it.
Old school.
Wait,
school.
hold on. Do you know?
We're young, bro. I
You don't know? Okay.
Own it, man.
All right.
I've gone old school.
You're
Yeah.
old.
Yeah, he's old school. But what he did was just like 2 European Cups back to back. Unknown team. I'll give him that. Like winning Champions League
Yeah.
with 2 unknown teams.
It's like
Unheard
a
of now.
Jose.
Never happened now.
That is a good point. The only person to do that after him was probably then Jose.
Yeah, Marino. Like, basically like Marino Raporto. But he done it back to back. That's
crazy.
Old school, but yeah.
Okay, so moving on to the next question. Should James Maddison go to the World Cup?
Yeah.
Over who?
Yeah, but then you don't know the others. I would take James Madison all day long. Set piece specialist, creative player.
He's on fire as
My
well.
problem with England will be how many goal scorers is he going to take? Because when I see that the players he may take, Harry Kane, Sterling, are your goal scorers, I'm just thinking of the other players who will create or score for England. I think Maddison could create for England. I like James Maddison, and his set pieces are on the money. And as you know, I like set pieces.
Okay, so as you know, the likes of Ivan Toney and Callum Wilson are now bagging their form. So, who are you going to choose out of those 2 strikers to take the backup striker for Harry Kane?
That is tough.
Mm-hmm.
Who I would take, who Gareth would take.
Who are you taking?
I'm taking Wilson.
Why?
I think Gareth Southgate would take Tony, I think, over him. I really like Callum Wilson. I think his movement is excellent. I think he's in such good form. You know, he scored. I think the team he's playing in as well.
Yeah.
He's playing with really, really good players. I know there's only 2 more Prem. I think there's 2 or 3 more Prem games left. I just think he'll score. I think he's in a rich. I know Tony is as well. I would just go off. I think if he's going to, they're going to be subs. They're not going to start. Kane's going to start. They're going to be subs. If you're going to throw on a sub to go and get you a goal, I think Wilson would get you a goal in front of Tony. I don't know. You three have gone against me. I get it.
I think
That's me.
you've changed my mind. You've changed my mind.
They're not going to start.
That's what I thought about Callum Wilson. He's clinical. And 70th minute, 80th minute,
he can get the job done, to be fair.
Tony's going to fluff his first one, unfortunately.
That's what I think.
Unless it's a penalty, he's going to fluff his first one. And that's the one that you need one chance.
Because they're going to be a sub. They're not going to start. Come on. They're going to come on in the game, probably if you're chasing it or if you need a goal.
Well, okay, maybe.
And I think Wilson might. And he's in good form.
Okay, so we're now moving back down the line. So, 1 spot left, right back spot. Who are you taking, Reece James or Trent?
Reece James.
Wow,
Reece James.
That's 2 and 2 on Reece, you know.
Reece James. I mean, that Trent gets far too much stick for what he is. Because Klopp makes a really, really good point. Liverpool leave 2 centre halves on the halfway line. They play frantic football. They leave Trent 1-1. Don't get me wrong. Some of Trent's defending, I totally understand it. Body shapes, 1v1s, I get it. Trent as a footballer, his distribution is just out of this world. His crossing ability and stuff like that, I get it. As an all-round package, Reece James offers you more as an all-round package for me. In terms of being a defender, going forward, Reece James offers you more than what Trent would, in my opinion.
You're going to come back that.
I agree. 100%. Trent,
George.
I'm not having Trent.
Not at all.
He needs to defend.
I'm still
Or
thinking.
be a
but
right winger.
if I'm being honest, I think I'm taking Reece because of the defending aspect. No, but that's what I mean. Because we know he can get forward and like he can chip in with a goal here and there, and his finishes are good, to be fair. But the defending aspect for me as a right back, I know the game has changed and moved on, but as a right back, like defend as well. And I know he would give me a solid 8
Oh, you're right.
performance. Huh?
You're right.
Gaffer, tell me.
You're right, bro.
Gaffer,
I
tell
got a
me.
question.
Yes.
Every fullback at Chesham is fit.
Yeah.
Who are you starting?
If
Right,
every
left.
fullback.
Do you know what? Yeah, I didn't deep what he was talking about. That went over my head, but I caught it.
We're win backs in a minute.
What?
Get me back fit,
So,
man.
It's a redundant question.
I think I know who's starting left though.
Who?
Come on, Gaffer. We know.
JC, yeah.
And who's right?
At a minute.
Unreal.
Everyone fit.
At a minute.
Everyone fit. You've got your options.
Win back's different though.
I just want to know.
Win backs. At a minute, it's Jamal Prosper. At a minute.
No, do you know what? He's having a season.
Yeah.
What a season that boy's having, to be fair.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've gone to 3 in a minute, so it's hard. But
So next
put
question.
more.
Look, I can't prove to be fit at the moment. I'm struggling here, but when I come back in it, so we'll see. So this question has been bugging me all day. I'm gonna send it to you guys later. In fact, you guys can answer now. So you have KDB, Luka Modric, Cesc Fabregas. You have to drop one, start one, and bench one.
So say again, you got
So
Fabregas,
Fabregas, Luka Modric, Kevin De Bruyne.
and you have to do what? You have to start one.
Start one, bench one, and drop one.
Oh man, that's just yeah.
I think it's an easy question, but if you hear some of the answers, comment below your options.
There's Modric, Fabregas, and last one.
Kevin De Bruyne. This is straightforward.
I've got an emotional attachment because of Fabregas.
Yeah. That's exactly what I was
See,
thinking.
that's the
I've got
only
emotional
reason.
I'm not
This
dropping
pro-
Fabregas.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the only reason you can stick Fabregas in.
Yeah, I got emotional attachment, so I'm all, Fabregas on the bench.
At least he didn't start him. I'll tell you that.
But look who I'm dropping out. I'm like an idiot. Like, whoever I say drop out now, you'd be like, "This is just madness." I'm gonna go with De Bruyne to start.
Oh no!
Yep.
Wow!
I agree.
Yeah, this
You don't want to drop Modric.
Wow!
But
the
Kevin
attachment of
De Bruyne.
Fabregas is the one.
Ballon d'Or winner, lifetime Champions League winner.
Doesn't change anything.
Yeah, problem.
What he's done with Croatia? Oh my! This is a Modric, KDB, Fabregas. Start Modric, bench KDB, and then drop Fabregas.
I can see why people would say that. I get it, but
Because it's the one that makes the most logical sense. Like
you have to be like loyal though, George.
No.
That's what Arsenal. You've got to be loyal. You can't be on here like on the front.
Arsenal fans are not loyal though.
Huh?
We're the most
We are
loyal.
this year.
When
It's the 1 year we are.
Arsenal fans are not loyal. You're not like United fans. When our club was going through it, we stuck with them. I did as well. Some of the Arsenal fans support City now. Did you get my point? But
Are
on
you
that,
still Are you still sticking with United now? Yeah.
come on, we got a chance at winning the Prem this year. You know. Let me break it down to you. I've been thinking this over. I thought it was wild, but hear me out. We've got the World Cup to come, yeah. God willing that a couple teams players are unfit. Arsenal, I'm talking about, and then teams are going to take points off each other. They're still like big teams to play each other, and we're thriving as well. So I feel like after the World Cup, let's hope that we're thriving. Teams get their players injured, and then hopefully we got the Europa League, so we don't have to play as many games.
Do you know how many scenarios he's thrown in there? It's like
Wait,
going for the lottery. Like, he just like throw in this bag.
hold on.
United players
Like,
get
what?
injured.
But this is why I'm not mad, because no one thought that Leicester would win the league, and what happened? So it's possible.
Yeah, anything's possible. George.
Anything's
Anything's possible.
Nah.
Like, you might get fit again. Anything's possible. Like, you might get fit again. Anything's possible. Anything's possible, George.
But you're definitely not playing wing back.
I'm done. Courtney can close it.
Thank you. We've been Ball Hour. This has been James Duncan. Thank you.
Now this is ball hour, and we can ball all hour.